All right, guys. So now we're going to take a look at Kevin Pillar's upper half adjustments that I think he can make to make him a much more solid hitter, much more powerful hitter. And like I said before in the previous video, not a home run hitter. He's obviously not. That's not going to be his role in the team. But we're talking about average batted balls and play to be harder, which we know all of us baseball fans know that harder hit balls more often allow to much better things, more hits. Ground balls get through faster, get you on base more. The singles become doubles, and so on and so forth. And now we're going to take a look at his upper half. And I did the lower half video first on purpose because the lower half has to be the most important. Okay, the lower half adjustments that your hitter, your young hitter, or your older hitter needs to make need to come from the lower half first. When we start talking about adjustments with guys that come in to see us, whether they're 8 years old or 28-year-olds, is always going to be with the feet first, okay? Because that's like a chain reaction, a domino effect up the rest of the swing into the shoulders and into the hands eventually at the very end. All are affected by what your feet do first. So I can't stress it enough. If you're watching this with maybe your young player, your youth player, your high school player, whoever, that you really stress that the lower half is the most important half until it's solid, and then we can move on up the ladder, up the chain. And really, the upper half adjustments that Kevin Pillar I think needs to make stem from a much more aggressive and powerful move, and then he can also adjust his approach a little bit too. Once we know that we can swing faster, things like that seem to change for the better. And we're going to take a look at the same two swings, and we're going to compare him again to Jose Bautista because I think Bautista does a really good job of it. Donaldson as well for the Blue Jays, also very good, and some other guys as well. But really, Bautista I think is the most clean and efficient with his movements. And we can watch again the lower half of Pillar here as he steps in with the closed front landing. And then what's going to happen is as he goes to load, okay, so the loading phase of his swing, you can see him kind of lean in towards the plate a little more. We can clearly see his head move closer to the umpire as he goes into his stride. Again, the camera angle is a little bit deceptive in that regards, but we know that, and we're going to take that into account. But really what I want to see from him is a much more aggressive back elbow or back shoulder row or move backwards. You can see as he goes forward, his hands do make a little bit of a move back. You see he tips his barrel in a little bit towards the pitcher, which is good. I like to see that. His knob's facing more towards towards maybe the umpire's elbow right there. So he's doing some stuff that is good, but I don't really see that big, much more aggressive, move back. So if we take a look at his back elbow, I'm not really seeing any back movement away from the catcher here with his back shoulder, back elbow. And again, this is a ball he hits over the center field fence. So let me be clear, this ball is absolutely smashed for him, but I think there could be so much more there for obvious reasons. More power, more hits, da-da-da-da. But as he goes forward, we don't really see that big back shoulder, back elbow come behind him. And because of that, he's not really able to get as much stretch. So when he gets to the open hip position, so when his foot's on the ground and his front hip is trying to get out of here more. Now, obviously, with the front foot landing closed, like I said, that's going to become much more difficult for him to do as he tries to swing. But with that hip opening this way and across his shirt and his stomach this way, and that elbow gets back behind him more, we're going to create a ton of stretch, a ton of separation, as we like to call it as well, in this area. Now you can actually see the wrinkles in his shirt a little bit here in the box I highlighted. You can see his shirt wrinkling up, which is good, but again, I think there's much more there. Now, I don't know him physically and kind of how he's built. I don't know if he has some hip and shoulder limitation as far as his rotation goes, but I do know that his back elbow can make a better move back behind him, which in turn is going to stretch down through his core, down through his stomach muscles, and then eventually, that stretch is going to lead to more fire. If we snap over to Bautista real quickly, or we're going to be able to see what I'm talking about here. So this is the same swing we talked about in his lower half. As he loads up, again with the leg kick, there's also a little bit of a move forward in for him, but watch how as he goes to put his foot down and really open up, so he's decided he's going to swing at this point, you can really see his elbow already showing up. So there's behind his head now. Can't see it. As he goes to move forward and begin to open up his hips and really begin the rotation, you can see this back elbow really get up above him. So from here, like a slingshot, like a rubber band, this hip is going to open up, tug on the back hip, and then that back hip is going to really pull that elbow back down behind him and then eventually around him with the bat. And that's where the bat speed really comes from. It doesn't come from the wrist. It doesn't come from, the hands or whatever muscles that you're using to control your hands. It comes from this stretch. It comes from this athletic move forward, and then this explosive, very efficient, very quick stretch, and then that firing action of the back hip really pulling on the back shoulder, back elbow, which allows them to continue to go through it. And we've talked about it before on this website and every day in our lessons, is that when that back gets going out this way, it's not a forced extension outward through the ball. 99.9% of that is just letting go. It's just letting the back go out, because all the action, all the buildup happens back here behind him. And that's something that every player, 8 years old to 38 to 58 can really benefit from. Now, not everybody has Bryce Harper stretch, Bryce Harper separation, Jose Bautista separation, but this is an elbow move that I think a lot more people can get on board with if they just learned how to load correctly and in sequence at the right time. It does require timing, but this is hard stuff to get if you don't ever practice it. If you practice it, you can do it. And if we split screen it here, and again, we can take a look at the same time, and I'll highlight it in the picture in this article at the same thing. We just don't see that aggressive back shoulder, back elbow stretch away from the front hip that we see in Jose Bautista. So if we kind of get him to the same, really getting ready to go position, that back elbow is way up there, and his hips begin to open, and then, man, it's really pulling down on that back shoulder, back elbow, and we just don't see it with Pilar. And, this ball, like I said, is a home run. The ball's hit plenty enough to go over the fence, but who knows how many more it could hit? Who knows how many ground balls he could have hit this season that would have gotten through and raised his batting average a lot. And I know that's one thing he was talking about in that interview was, lessening the leg kick so that he had more time to see the ball. And when I read that and I heard that, when I heard those out of his, those words out of his mouth, I was like, man, that's the wrong way to go about it. The only way to increase your time to see the ball is to swing faster. There's no other way. There's no stepping or non-stepping or taking a big, whatever it is that you do, it has to result in swinging the bat faster. And typically speaking, leg kicks and definitely more movement forward is going to allow more momentum, which is going to allow you to swing faster. And some people would say, oh, well, you're moving towards the pitcher, you're getting closer to the ball. But if you're not doing that and you're just standing there and you're going to try to use your wrist muscles and your hands, and coaches say all the time, quick hands, then you're not going to be able to generate enough bat speed to react fast enough when the ball is closer. So therefore, you actually make your reaction time less. But if we can get that momentum forward, if we can do what we talked about in the first video, if we can get that stride direction down, and then this last little part, if we can get this one little phase of the sequence behind him a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more lengthy and stretchy from his back elbow to his front hip, then he's going to be able to let that ball travel a lot closer before he has to commit, before he has to decide to swing at it, just like Jose Bautista, Donaldson, and Tulo, and all these guys we see on the Blue Jays absolutely tearing it up. He's going to be able to see that ball longer. And that's really where, reaction time and lessening or increasing reaction time is going to happen for these guys, is in how fast they can get the bat going from this position up here behind them. So up here where we can see Bautista's bat, to back here behind his shoulder, and then eventually out from behind and in front of the catcher. We can see he always does a great job of this, and this is something that has allowed him and really transformed Bautista's career from where it was years ago to where he is now and what he's known for. And you can see how the barrel works down behind his back shoulder here in this move here, and that's that front hip. You can see how the front hip opens up, and at the same time, where's the barrel going? Behind him, because it's pulling from behind and eventually out and up, by the way. We do know that swinging up is what we want to do. Matching the plane, we all know that. But this is just, two things that I saw after I heard the interview, and I really watched the swing a bunch. And again, the video on the left is probably one of the best swings I've actually seen him take in the videos that I saw. And I think there's a lot of room for improvement for him immediately. I think, like I said in the first video, he's a pro. He's a great athlete. We've seen him make those plays on ESPN. He can do this stuff. And young kids can do it too. They just have to be taught that pattern and understand what it means to be athletic in a swing, to be explosive in a swing. And he could be too, even for a smaller guy. Bautista and guys like that and Pedroia have shown us that little guys, comparatively speaking to bigger guys, can also hit the ball far enough to hit home runs and to up their average ball and play speed, so that ground ball between the second baseman and shortstop doesn't get gobbled up anymore. It doesn't that ball between the first baseman and second baseman shoots through the ball over the second baseman's head. Now goes over the into the gap, into the wall, and creating more damage that way too. So Pilar, man, you're on a good team with a lot of great hitters that move very well, very efficiently, and I hope for him that he's talking to him maybe and maybe taking some advice and copying some of these moves. And the leg kick that he talks about in the interview, I hope that he keeps and understands how to use it a little bit better with the stride direction correction, his foot landing close correction, and then after that, really focusing on a much more aggressive back elbow move so that he can get more stretch between his shoulders and his hips. So there you have it. There's his 2 corrections I think he can make right away that could, especially now the playoffs are here, but during the offseason I think he can make these corrections relatively easily if you just sat down and watched the video and saw what the guys that are having lots of success are doing. So there you go. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you next time.